What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. What's going on, folks? Welcome into the weekly edition of the show. For those that only follow me on my podcast platforms, this show is just like any other show, right? A weekly episode. For those that only follow me on YouTube, you're probably like, what are you talking about? I see your content. You post 3 or 4 episodes a week or 3 or 4 videos. I got to figure out a way to differentiate this content, I should say. Maybe I'll call it the growl as far as like the YouTube segment. But yeah, here we are, folks, your weekly podcast on the one and only Carolina Panthers. Hey, thank you for bearing with me. It's been quite a journey trying to get this microphone right here working again. I know audio isn't terrible, but it's not fantastic. I have an audio box USB, which you can't see, that plugs in and helps power the microphone. For whatever reason, something I'm guessing is wrong with it. I'm not a audio engineer, so I can't truly dissect what's happening. I've looked at everything online for PreSonus's website, and I've went through all the troubleshooting steps, and none of it's working. So here we are. We'll continue down the path. Nothing's going to stop us as we have passed 500 subscribers. Thanks to y'all. As we continue to grow on all the platforms. Not going to let this hold us down, right? Not going to let this hold us down. We're here to talk Panthers this week. Pretty laid back week, right? Not much news for the Panthers right now as we really near the draft process. Such a weird year for the Panthers in the draft. So much hype and anticipation around the draft is the first day. Rolling out the red carpets, the nice suits, people going in person, sitting in the waiting room, waiting to be picked, the process that goes along with all those things, or if they stay at home, recording their journey and their reaction. The Panthers will be sitting it out this year. I am, as always, going to be close by to my camera, to anything that I need, just in case they do something crazy and trade up into the first round. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it this year. I think they'll sit tight, hope that some craziness happens on day one and there's someone left that another team desperately wants, and then they'll move up or have someone move up over top of them and get some more draft picks. So that's my hope. But all right, folks, so let's jump into the latest news for the Carolina Panthers. And it's not really Panthers news, but let's talk about some of the important dates coming up for your Panthers and some league-wide dates as well. Kicking it off, the first day of the offseason program for the Carolina Panthers officially starts on April 8th. So April 8th, as I record this on April 2nd, it's going to be here before you know it. Voluntary minicamp, again, not required, is April 23rd through the 25th. That's like right before the draft. OTA, all-season workouts will be May 20th through the 21st, May 23rd, May 28th through the 29th, May 31st, June 3rd through the 4th, and June 6th. Mandatory minicamp is June 11th through the 13th. Usually there is a rookie minicamp shortly after the draft. So I would anticipate we'd see that in early May. Do not have the dates for that, but I will share those when they come available. What has not been scheduled, which doesn't surprise me, is training camp. Again, training camp this year going to be in Charlotte. We're waiting to find out if it's going to be open to the public, if they're going to be ready and prepared to take on visitors, spectators as they open it up in, I'm guessing what's going to be the place, their old practice facility there with the bubble. I don't know if they'll be ready in time. I would think so. Still no word. I saw the mailbag. So Panthers.com pulls together a mailbag of their own one of the questions is around training camp. Is it going to be fees? Is it going to be this? And there's like just no confirmation. I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if they come out, like I said, and say that there's going to be fees associated with going to training camp. Still, I don't have committed plans to go or not to go. We will see how this thing plays out. I would love to get down there a few days. I think it makes sense if possible. Just logistically, y'all already know if you follow the show, there's a lot going on here. Now, the other dates that I've talked about, just going through the program we talked about, off-season program starting. Really, the next there's a few things. Let's see, the top 30 visits. So the deadline for clubs to time test, visit, interview, or conduct physical examinations with the draft eligible player at its facility is April 17th. So those top 30 visits got like 15 days left. That doesn't mean that the Panthers can't go to the players or meet somewhere else, because they can actually meet up until April 24th. So that's the deadline for clubs to time test, interview, conduct physical examinations for draft eligible players, at any location. Draft is in Detroit, April 25th through the 27th. May 2nd is the deadline for clubs to exercise the fifth-year option, which in this case is going to be for J.C. Horn. And here we go. Yeah, I knew it would be early May. So clubs will designate or hold their 3-day post-draft rookie minicamp either May 3rd through the 6th or the 10th through the 13th. So it'll be one of those weekends, so we'll let you know. May 13th, rookie football development program begins. May 20th through 22nd in Nashville, the Spring League Meeting and Coach Accelerator program. And those are all the dates. All of your off-season dates, at least for now. And coming in and doing this another year, things just get much easier managing this. Now, speaking of those top 30 visits, got a list running, keeping it updated as we get news. This year I've struggled to find a source. I've told y'all Panthers Wire last year did a great job. I think Pro Football Network is probably the closest this year to keeping up. It's hard to keep up. Again, it doesn't have to be made official. It's really any news that we get around a player coming in for a top 30 visit is going to come through, a tweet, more than likely. That's where the news source lies. But to this point, we've heard Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, wide receiver out of USC, is playing for a top 30 visit. Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M. Marshall Nealon, defensive end or edge, really, out of Western Michigan. Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas. Malachi Corley, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. Peyton Wilson's name's also on here, but he's a local visit, so he doesn't necessarily count into that top 30. So those are the visits I've seen. Now, you can go out to a lot of these other platforms and search, and they will pull together like Senior Bowl, Reese's Bowl, Combine, pro days, all these things to try to compile like who met with who. It's just as much of a guessing game for me as it is you trying to keep tabs. But it's good information. It's good information if you are into mock drafts and you're trying to build out, or you want to understand like who are the Panthers really thinking about drafting. Does, like I've always said, does give a good indication. Might not be spot on. And the Panthers are likely not going to meet with everyone that they end up drafting. But I like to know. I like to know who they're talking to. Sets it up for us, at least on the content side, content creation side, right? Helping us out. Now, the other NFL news that we got today, which I just find some of this stuff interesting, you may or may not care, is performance-based distribution So the NFL players will receive $393 million in performance-based pay for their performance in 2023. So this is collectively bargained benefit that compensates all players based upon their playing time and salary levels. John Simpson, who played for the Ravens in 23, earned the highest amount among all NFL players for the 2023 league year. His $974,613 distribution will nearly double his 2023 salary. Good for you, man. He was a 2020 fourth-round draft choice from Clemson who played the 23 season under a one-year minimum salary, participated in all but 7 plays on offense and almost 19% of the club's special team plays. Lots of contribution. There's a breakdown on how this performance pay works, and then they list out the top 25 performance-based pay distributions. So John Simpson, guard, is at the top, like we said. Reed Blankenship, a safety out of Philadelphia. Spencer Brown, a tackle out of Northern Iowa. Cordell Volson, guard out of North Dakota State. I could keep going through the list. Richard boy Brock Purdy, number 24 on the list, $739,000 in additional pay distribution. Good for him. We do not have a Carolina Panther on this top 25 list. I'm sure there's data out there that, all the teams actually have on like who gets paid what. Because I saw Adam Schefter or someone tweet that Aaron Rodgers got like $80. That was what his pay came out to. Drop in the bucket for him, right? Drop in the bucket. Yeah, that was the other news-ish. Now, 2 other things. I did open a mailbag earlier this week on X. So if you follow me on there, I tweeted out and said, I'm opening a mailbag. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to discuss regarding the Panthers, and I'll feature it in this week's content. So here we go. We're going to feature it. We've got three questions. So I'll start with the first one, which is from Reverend Saul. Again, shout out to Reverend Saul. You are always responding on X, YouTube, and it is very much appreciated. He said, what are your thoughts on cornerback and what should the Panthers do? Should we bring in Gilmore, wait to draft a starter, or both? Who are your top picks at cornerback? Also, what are your thoughts on Horn's 5th-year option? Great question. So generally speaking, I look at the pieces that we're bringing in. Is Dane Jackson going to be a starter? Possibly. I mean, you assume, yes, J.C. Horn, starter on one side of the ball. Troy Hill, nickel cornerback. And then you're talking about depth. So I've been a fan of bringing on Gilmore as we've talked through this, but at the same time, it's like, who's going to get the reps? I don't think it's a bad thing to have too many people here and have depth at the cornerback position. You also have, again, a few guys, Boodle on kind of the borderline practice squad, guy that saw some playing time, guys like that. So should we bring in Gilmore? I would say yes. I do think we should bring him in. It makes complete sense as long as the money is right. I feel like if we can get close on the money, that he's going to be here, and we've even got Clowney out here trying to recruit him as well. So just bring him over. Should we wait to draft a starter? I like the idea of drafting a cornerback. I do. It does kind of muddy the waters again, like I said, when you have the Dane Jackson or Gilmore, some of these other guys lower on the roster. You could put yourself in a situation where it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to cut some of these guys or cut one of these guys, which isn't a bad thing. It's better to have a surplus in these situations. So it feels like they may go after a cornerback. I can't tell you when, but on paper it would make sense considering the age of some of these guys. Like even if you bring in a Gilmore, he's a little bit older. Troy Hill's a little bit older. Dane Jackson trying to prove it. J.C. Horn, injury prone. So it all make logical sense. As far as like top picks, I have to go out and kind of pull my updated. So I started working through a list for each of the position groups and trying to highlight who I think the Panthers should take or who may be available. Give me 1 second and we'll try to get this pulled up. Maybe I'll be able to tell you. So I think it's going to be a stretch that he's going to be available. You look at a Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, highly touted cornerback. Feels like the Panthers have interest. It's hard to imagine that he's going to get out of the first round. If for some reason he slipped and he was there for the Panthers to take, I would say yes, we have to scoop him up. Same thing with Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. I think he's another really solid cornerback underneath there. He's another one that's like, is he going to make it out of the first round? The other one is Cooper DeJean, right? White cornerback, which is the rarest of rare things in the NFL. But he's another one that's like first round talent. So I think out of those three, Wiggins, McKinstry, DeJean, if one of those guys fell and this really becomes a game of like, who do you want at pick 33? Do you want to go defense? Do you want to go offense? A lot of people want to do offense, but I could see the case for defense. This is another twist that I'm just thinking as I do this live. You could have a situation where we know that Ejiro is likely going to get a head coaching job here in the next year or two. And not to say you don't want to build a defense, but it's like, do you want to have him get a guy that benefits him for the next year? And then, he's gone, not to say like production is production. So it's not like once Ejiro leaves, the player would be gone. So I wouldn't see it as that. But I think about pondering like, okay, well, maybe you weigh and say, well, we want to just go all offense right now. So I think those are the guys. I mean, if you get further out, Rakestraw Jr. out of Missouri, Lassiter out of Georgia, DJ James out of Auburn. I mean, now we're talking more probably third round picks, possibly second guys that will definitely be there in the second round, possibly into the third. TJ Tampa out of Iowa State as well. So that's my list. And do you think we should pick up Horn's fifth year option? Yes. I've talked about JC Horn, talked about, yes, I get his injuries and people worried, but you take it. Pick up his fifth year, pay it, move along. It's $11-12 million. Doesn't work. Like, you get through this year and things aren't what you thought they'd be, and he's still showing the same things, like getting hurt. Okay, you got him for another year. You picked it up. Possibly, I mean, you picked it up, so you're kind of stuck with it, but you have it. It's safe. But I could see them weighing the other side, like, okay, we're going to actually make sure you're worth picking up this $12 million, which that also could, they're going to have to draft a cornerback before they have to decide to pick up the fifth year. But I'm thinking, like, what if they go out here and decide to get one or two cornerbacks? The future play is like, we're not going to pick up your option, Horn. If you do well, you do well. If not, we're moving on. Like, already. That could be a possibility. All right, next on the list, we have Anthony Hunt. It's Anthony Hunt 9 with 2 questions. He said, 1, would like to hear your thoughts on our Panthers running back room depth. Also, should we even focus on running backs in this year's draft? Great question. Depth-wise, we're solid. Chuba Hubbard, running back 1. Now, is he going to be – he was very close to 1,000 yards last year. And I know 1,000 yards has changed, but I think if Chuba had gotten more touches earlier, he would have easily eclipsed 1,000 yards. He was splitting carries very early in the season with Miles Sanders. Behind that, you do have Miles Sanders when you talk about depth, and it's going to be one of those things for me where I'm hopeful that the way Canales likes to use running backs in the passing game and screens, that can be Miles Sanders' role in this offense in this upcoming season. And I'm also hopeful that the new front, the new offensive line, as long as they can stay healthy, that maybe that's the kind of spark that Miles needs to have a productive year. And he was just shy of what, like 500 yards. Now I'm going to second guess. Like I look at this stuff all the time. Let's do it live and make sure we get this right. 432 rushing yards. So just shy of 500. And I think you could get 500, 600 yards out of Miles Sanders, just depending on how successful the run game is. So I do feel good there. And then Raheem Blackshear, who's more of your kick returner. You got a Spencer Brown. So as far as depth, like I feel okay and confident that we've got players. So if we decided not to get someone in the draft, that's okay. On the flip side, you see what we had our Christian McCaffrey, but you see what a running back can do to elevate an offense. And I think having it in, I don't think you're really going to have that many Christian McCaffreys, but having someone close to that level, that's what we would be looking for. And I'd love to find that. You had it, now it's gone. You also think about Kansas City Chiefs, some of these teams that have gone on runs, and they haven't necessarily had this like super dynamic, off the charts running back. They've had solid running back play, but not what we're accustomed to with some of these big workhorses like a Derrick Henry, Marshall Faulk, some of the big names that I like to think of. So yeah, it's my take on running backs. The other topic, this is again from Anthony Hunt's 9. The other topic I would like to hear your thoughts on are where we stand as of now in the NFC South after via free agency, pre-draft, and I guess our pick with wide receiver or edge at 33. It's a great question, and it's going to kind of segue into a segment here in just a minute that's going to close us out, where we talk a little bit about expectations for this upcoming year. So where we stand in the NFC South, I mean, I think everyone is going to say we're at the bottom, and the over-unders came out. We have the lowest over-under total in the NFL, 4.5. Guess 5.5, depending on where you work, but 4.5 seems to be the number. So I think it makes sense to put the Panthers at the bottom of the NFC South right now. But that doesn't mean I don't think we are going to be the worst team in the NFC South. So I love to talk about this stat because it just shows you like how quickly things change. You had 3 of the 5 teams, like I said last year, that were projected to have the worst win totals that made the playoffs. Tampa Bay, Houston, Rams. It is very possible that the Carolina Panthers could turn this around. Again, not saying that they will. We're going to look at their schedule in just a minute, and that'll kind of give you my final prediction. But where they sit, I think they can be competitive with New Orleans. I think they can be competitive with Tampa Bay. Like, I think between those 3, I think I'd give an edge. I'd probably say Atlanta Falcons, that's the bar until we see something happen where they're just not going to be, that top level team with Kirk and all their weapons. Do you have a new coach, staff? Underneath it, Tampa, just based off of like, hey, we'll give some respect to Todd Bowles, to Baker Mayfield, to Mike Evans, to the weapons they have. And then New Orleans, Panthers right now, kind of put close together. I mean, you like I said, probably have New Orleans just a notch above, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited, and I don't think that the Panthers can win. But great segment because now I went out here and I can get it pulled up. I said, ask Panthers fans, what are your expectations for this upcoming season? I said, drop a comment and I'll feature it. So we have Jeremy Riddle, FF underscore elite. He said, be competitive, be better than yesterday. Bryce progression. I'm going to see Bryce's progression and double the win total. So that's 4. Setting the bar low, never hyping myself up like last year ever again. That was a terrible feeling as a fan. It is and was. It's a terrible feeling to go through losing. I think fans, we just have that bad taste in our mouth. One day I'm going to buy a hat that'll designate me when I'm talking as a fan, and then another hat that does designate me talking as a podcaster. Because my fan hat right now is optimism. I understand being realistic, and it's just like you go through a breakup, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to love again, or whatever it is. That's kind of how you feel like when you're back in high school. Oh man, I'm never going to love again. I can't do this. I'm not going to get burned. Like, sure enough, you come around. And I think that's kind of where Panthers fans sit right now. We have Jace Jordan, who's Jace Jordan 1, said in number 1, spelled out, just be competitive, have some fire. Yep. I want to see some competitive football. Lemon L Lover underscore. Score some points would be nice. Oh my gosh, we need some points scored here. There's no doubt about that. Zachary East, it's Zachary East 12, said, I still believe 8 to 9 wins is very much a possibility. Coach Vero had us a top 10 defense with more scrubs than we have now. A healthy Shaq and a full season of JC will make a huge difference. Even a top 20 offense will make us that much better. Yeah. Healthy Shaq. What is Shaq going to look like? So that's one of the variables. JC Horn. I'd love to see JC Horn all year. I do agree that makes a huge difference. I don't know if we'll get that. So you kind of have those variables. But yeah, I do think last year, people talk about the defense being good, and even I fall into that trap because you look at yards allowed versus points. Yards allowed, top 5 defense. Points allowed, 31st. So you got to be a little realistic with yourself and say, okay, it wasn't that great, and that you can't throw in the we would never let. Okay, maybe you throw that in there. Never led in the fourth quarter, but the games were close, the games were competitive, and the offense was just bad. And the offense was one of the worst in Panthers history, second worst, right, in points per game. I do think a top 20 offense, and I agree, but I think it has to be like 20, 19 to 20-ish, 21. Would do a lot of good for the defense and do a lot of good for this team. So I'm all on board. I like it. Thank you for participating, my friends. Now that leads us into over-unders. It is the year is 2024. It's 2 or 3 weeks into legal sports gambling, almost a month. I've never not gambled yet. I don't know that I ever will again. But here we go. Over under is 4.5. That's the Panthers win total right now, or projected by Vegas. I'm sitting down now looking at our schedule. These are just the opponents, not the order. We got Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa twice. Look at those games. So I'm seeing, do I think the Panthers can realistically get over this 4.5? Falcons are going to be much better, or should be. We usually find a way to split with a lot of these. It's very hard to sweep a division opponent. Like, If we could win 3 games out of this bucket, I mean that'd be pretty good. If you go 500 in the division, but for the sake of doing this, as we're doing this live, Atlanta, I'll scratch. I'll say we're not gonna, maybe Atlanta's just gonna be as good as we think they are. New Orleans and Tampa, I think we can split. It's a possibility. So that'll give you 2 wins, right? 2 wins on the year. So that'd put us at 2-4 record wise. Next up, we have the NFC East with Dallas, New York, Philly, Washington. Dallas is home. So is New York. Dallas is a good football team. Whether they can get over the hump, I don't know. I will put Dallas as a loss. I'm redoing the way I'm writing this out. New York Giants, Daniel Jones, they were a terrible, terrible team last year, not far off from the Panthers. I think that's a game that the Panthers can win. So you're talking 3. Maybe I'll put that in the split column in the middle, and we'll decide later. Yeah, Philadelphia away. I think that's a loss. There's a lot going on in Philly, but good football team. You have Washington, who's going to have a rookie quarterback, brand new staff, and it's away. But I do feel like the Panthers can win that game. So that's 3. 3 and 6, with 1 game sitting in the middle. Kansas City at home. I'd love for us to win that, but that's a long shot. I'm going to say nope. I should say we're looking at the AFC West now. The Chargers. What is Harbaugh going to be able to do with Herbert and the lack of weapons? That's a winnable game. It's at home. They don't have much of a fan base. I'll put us at 4. I could see you leaning putting that one in the middle, but I'm going to put it where I have it for now. Denver away. Denver's another team without a quarterback. Sean Payton, they did show signs of life late last year. It's another game that I feel like we could win because we have Denver away, Vegas away. Both games winnable, depending on quarterback situations. I am going to take Denver at 5. Vegas, I'll split that and say we lose. Gives us 3 games left, which puts us at 5 and 8 with the split in the middle. We have Arizona Cardinals. You're going to have some pretty good picks. That game's home. We've done pretty well against the Cardinals. I'll put that as a win. Chicago Bears away. Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams and a bunch of weapons. Maybe they figure it out. Are they going to have a CJ Stroud type season? I don't know. I'll put that in the middle, although I do see the Panthers winning. Then we have the Bengals. I'll put that as a loss. And also, one of these games is going to be in Germany. So mark that up. But as I have it today, that would be 6-9, right? 6-9 with 2 in the middle. So I kind of have the 2 splits. So you could say, well, we could be 6-11. So we kind of throwing out 6-11, 7-10, or 8-9. I mean, it feels like you got to take the over. Like I haven't bet, but I think there's room to get excited, folks. Things change in the NFL. They change very quickly, and I think we're going to have a competitive football team a lot sooner than we think out here, folks. A lot sooner. Anyways, folks, that's a wrap for this week's show. I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is Carolina Dad. If you are still here, please like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.